Alright, so welcome back to lecture 12. Continuing off the last lecture, one of the things you're going to run into is actually working with phases. So it's one thing to kind of show how they progress. It's another thing to actually go and modify them once you're kind of working on a project. So let's say that there's another phase after this, and this is kind of what you would expect. So back to manage phases. We'll skip that for now. And then I'll go down to 5 here, and let's say that we actually have another phase. So there's a whole second chunk of thing that's going on here. So after our new construction, we will go in and we'll create another called um, construction phase 2, and it's expanding the temporary building. Okay, so now that we've got that there, again, we'll duplicate one of our floor plans, and we'll get into kind of that whole thing right there later. So we need to set this to construction phase 2, and we will rename this construction phase 2. So then let's say that whatever this phase is we're actually going in here and demoing this back wall, which means I'd actually have to go in and put another phase here. So let's say, let's do phase 2 demo for construction phase 2. So maybe not that granularly, but sometimes projects do have a bunch of little weird sections that come in and out, or come into play, or get changed. So we have construction phase 2 here, and then we will make another one for demo phase 2, or phase 2 demo. Shouldn't have named it that, but it's there, so we're just going to go with it. Phase 2 demo. Alright, so let's see. Alright, so in this case, let's say that what we want to do now is we actually want to go in here and demo a hole in this wall for a door, and maybe we'll expand a facility outside of here. So what you would do is you would come in with the wall clipping tool. So I would use the split element right here, and you can take just a section of the wall that's right here and set this to be demo and phase 2 demo. So again, as I go through that kind of, let me reorganize these here. So as I go through the phases, again, we have existing, we have site prep, we have existing demo, we have new construction, which is this building right here. But then as we get into our phase 2 demo, we have just this section being demoed here. And then because of that timeline, you can see that there in the phase 2, there's now a proper hole in that section of wall. So then I can come in here and maybe what we did was in new construction, we added a chunk here, but in this case there was only access to the area from, say, this door over here, and then there's a whole wing of whatever might be in this building. I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing this together. And then as the actual phase 2 comes through, you open up that wall, clean it up, get it finished, and then whatever your clean out is after that. So you can come in and chop up individual sections of wall. For example, if I had, let's go to site prep, and for example, let's say that I had a series of windows stacked along this wall. Actually, let's just do an array. There we go. Okay, so do an array. Let's go there. We get 4 of those. Okay. Okay. So let's say that during this phase, whatever it was, we had a series of these windows put in as well. So then those windows are now in there through all these different phases. Again, think back to that timeline I mentioned earlier. New construction happens, and then for whatever reason, let's say at this point, we decide that we need to remove, say, half of these windows. So these two windows right here are going by. So these actually get demolished in phase 2 demo along with that wall. And so now in construction phase 2, technically I guess this should have been construction phase 2. But we needed that sweet demo. Anyway, we'll go back and change this. So this is our phase 2, construction phase 2. I guess it wouldn't be right to leave a hole in that wall. It's just kind of where my brain was at. But anyway, so here's your construction phase 2 where this section gets added and this wall gets removed in the demo along with those windows. So you can see again as we move through the project, just things keep getting added and removed. Now, the reason why I said initially in the previous demo that when you go in and actually manage your phases, to just go in and merge all these, I hate doing this. Um, so when you do that, you end up with kind of all these things that are all merged together. Um, and so you can see that now, because I did that, all these things kind of get like dropped on top of each other. So I've got, especially this building right here is actually merged on top of the other one. So if you were to do that where you just purge everything that's existing, you end up with this huge mess that's kind of hard to separate things from. Um, so that's why I would say if you are going to purge your phases, it's easier to do that at the start, set up what you need, and then move on from there. Whereas if you're going to be getting an existing project that's got phases already set up, maybe they're all screwed up to begin with, it becomes a kind of a mess to untangle all those things from each other. So it's best when you are working with a project that you know has phases to set up your phases properly in the beginning, and then again name them properly and kind of again highlight that naming issue. So right now here for just my level 1 I have 6 phases. I would now need to go in and make 6 phases for my level 2 if this was a 2-story structure. I would need to do the same thing for my ceiling plans. Just um, it kind of becomes like a huge cluster when you have all these different things that are now what you had before is now 6x'd, in order to get all those things to fit. So, let's see. Yeah, and so one of the issues that you run into is that you don't have that option here. Like when we created a new level, um, there we go. In the plan views, when we created a new level, excuse me, all right, so when we created a new level, we got this option here to duplicate this, but it doesn't give you that option for phases. So you have to go in and manually create all these new phases. Phases also apply for 3D views. So for example, right now my 3D view is on existing, but I can then cycle through and you can see, again, I kind of threw these buildings together, but you can see what happens during each of these phases as I cycle through, and it adds and removes things. So there is a progression. Think of the phases as a timeline because that's literally what they are. And then just remember that your phasing here, or sorry, your phasing here for the walls is going to give you a starting place and then an ending place. And it's entirely possible that, for example, if I'm on the existing, then this structure right here was already existing at the beginning of this project. But something that lasts throughout the end of the project will not have an end to it. So this right here, this piece of ground that I put down, will not be demolished at any point. So its phase can be set to none for demolish. Um, okay, I think that's good on phases. And we might have a follow-up lecture. But next we should be moving into topo surfaces this week. You guys are going to have kind of an interesting milestone this week, and then we'll be starting project 2. So I will see you guys in class.